Hey, and welcome to another I'm Sorry podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gibson. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're ready for another introspective, interesting, indubitably, trying to find another N word, what conversation that will dive into things that are hopefully important to you as they are important to me. So let's get into it. As always, you know how we do here on the I'm Sorry podcast. We start off with the I'm sorry and we add the thing. Today's thing is, I'm sorry, I'm toxic. A phrase that has become synonymous with attacking people left and right, breaking up relationships, marriages, everything, or just friendships. We hear it all the time. It's become such a buzzword, and I really wanted to get into it on both sides. The buzzword of it all, but also the idea of using it or using any word or phrase as a means to try to attack people. So let's talk about, what does this mean? We always know we want to make sure we want to get into the definition here so that we're all having the same conversation about the same thing at the same time. So toxic means poisonous. Also means relating or caused by poison. Third definition, very harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or insidious way. I think that's probably the one we're going to lean into. Also have definitions here, which I didn't know. I'm seeing it right now. Finance. Apparently toxic also has a finance definition. Denoting or relating to debt that has a high risk of default. Toxic debt. Who knew? Also denoting securities that are based on toxic debt and for which there is not a healthy or functioning market. And then last of all, poisonous substances, which we already said. So that's what we're about to dive into. So let's get into it. Toxic. In the last few years, I've heard a lot of people, I'm having some mic issues. My mic wants to cover my face. In the last few years, we've heard a lot of, am I good? My sound still good, guys? Thank you. In the last few years, I've heard a lot of people being called toxic. It's become so prevalent that after a while, you kind of I think the word, the definition we're leaning into, which is very harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or insidious way, has just become connotatively, meaning within the way that we talk, less. We've almost taken the real meaning out of it and turned it into something that personally kind of level-wise goes up and down. You have a toxic personality. So if we use that and connect it to this, very harmful or unpleasant in a pervasive or insidious way, personality. That's how people but that's not what they mean. I don't even know I'm not even going to get into what people probably really mean because it's an individual thing. I think that when we get into these moments where we're upset, we're mad, we're angry, we're frustrated, whatever it is, we immediately want to just make people wrong for their stuff, for their choice, for who they are, for what they're doing, instead of recognizing that in that moment, all you're doing is labeling somebody. You're throwing a label at somebody and you're throwing it in an attempt to lobbing what I would call a hurt grenade. You pull the pin and you go, and you hope that the other person feels pain from it. You hope that they've been injured by it. You hope that it causes them harm. Because in the end, you're not trying to help them. You're not trying to point out something a situational problem that has occurred. You're trying to attack them personally. The one other time I've heard it a lot is people talk about, my work environment is toxic. That's become something of a buzzword everywhere. And oftentimes when I hear that, I immediately go, what does that mean? Like, what are you saying? Could you define that for me? When you say that, what does that mean? Because I want clarity. I always want to understand, just like we do here on the show, I want to know what you're saying. Because my interpretation of a toxic work environment may be different than yours. Because I remember working on shows and movies that there were people who were, by the definition we're looking at here, who were toxic people. And because we allowed their behavior to continue, and I'm talking about not just somebody getting angry and yelling or things like that. I'm talking about people going out of their way to seemingly harm you, to cause you on purpose emotional stress, meaning, and even stress is the wrong word, emotional pain. They are literally lobbing the hurt grenade, trying really hard to ensure that you feel something. You'll have have those individuals who will come up to you and say something that you know is harmful, hurtful on purpose. And you have to look at them and go, what was the point of that? I've had supervisors. I remember one in particular from way back. I won't say who and I won't say from where. But I remember when I came onto the job, there was this whole, everybody was like, oh, he's so this, he's so that. People telling you what somebody is, which for me never works. Anytime somebody tells me who someone else is, I hear it, I take it in, but then I put it to the side because that's your experience of them. And I want to have my own personal experience of them. And then maybe if that experience lines up, great. But it could be just that was you because of you. You were the other variable in that scenario. So maybe that's why your relationship didn't work. And I remember meeting this guy and starting to work, maybe it was like the second or third day, and I had to get him lunch. And in my rush to because I was getting lunch for a bunch of people, I got the wrong size burrito for him. I think he wanted a small burrito. And I remember the woman, it was a busy day, and the woman was like, you can get a grande for like 10 cents more or something like that. And I was like, sure. And they, got it to me and I brought it back. And I remember his assistant was like, this is not what he wanted. He wanted a small. And I was like, do you want me to take it back? I said, I can just take it back and switch it. And he was like, no, it's too late now. And I remember going, why is it too late now? You haven't given it to him. It's nothing for me to jump back in the car and go back and get it. That's my job. But he gave it to him anyway. And then it was this whole, look at this burrito. Look at the size. And I'm not exaggerating. The screaming, look at the size of this burrito. This is insanity. How can I eat this burrito? And I'm sitting here going. And then he gives it back to me. And I'm like, and he's like, and the assistant looks at me and he's like, yeah, he don't want it. And I was like, I heard. And I was like, I'll just go get another one. He said, he's not going to eat it. That's not the point. I can at least make my wrongs right. If I recognize that I made a mistake, I know what the mistake is, and I know that the fix is for me to simply get a new burrito. What's the heck? Let me go get a new burrito. So I went back, changed it, got a smaller one, told him to keep the change. I didn't care about the 10 cents difference. And then brought back the burrito and gave it to him. It put it on and placed it on his desk. Did he eat it? I don't know. Did he appreciate it? Again, I don't know. But I know that I attempted to make the wrong right, considering that he was losing his mind over this burrito. Something like that happening every day, because I saw it happen in different ways, for other people can be considered toxic. Other example, again, another supervisor, he would come in and everyone would freak out. Oh, he's here. Oh no, he's here. Oh, he's in a bad mood. And I said to somebody one day, why are you making his bad mood your bad mood? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, you're saying he's in a bad mood. That's a personal thing. That has nothing to do with you. Why are you changing the way you're moving because of how you think? Is if you running around crazy gonna make his bad mood less? And they kind of looked at me like they didn't understand, so I let it go. And then he walked in, and he's all da 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 da. And I said, morning, because nobody was talking to him. And he looked up at me surprised that I even spoke to him. I was like, morning, how are you? And he was like, it's just a bad day. I said, God, the day didn't even start. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. I said, I'm sorry that your day already is bad. But the good news is you have no place to go but up. And that's not me being super optimistic or being this happy-go-lucky person. It was just that there was nothing happening in my life that needed to support his bad mood. So I decided to support my current feeling, which was I was good. Instead of allowing what other people were doing. And I say all that to say is that became for them, because I heard them say it, it's such a toxic environment. And I looked at them and go, that's not an environmental toxicity. You are overstating it. That is not what's happening. That is a moment where somebody's having an obvious bad day. If the bad day is every day, if every day that's what you have to deal with, and I don't exaggerate, I mean every day, then you have a different argument to make. Then you're saying that every day I walk in here, I have to have my armor on because I don't know whether or not I'm going to be, have to deal with his bad mood. But the reality of it is, even if that was the case, you still have a choice to make. You don't have to stay. If it's that bad, go. Find somewhere else to be. And if you can't, because that's, sometimes we get into places, situations where we sort of feel stuck, trapped, whatever. If that's yours, then you make a change. You decide to be different. Because I could have easily made the argument, probably more so than not. And more oftentimes when I saw that particular supervisor, he was in an off mood. He was in an off space, an off energy. And I could have decided to be afraid or walk around moving off of his off energy. But I made a different choice. I made the choice to stay in the mood that I was already in and not allow his mood to become my mood, not allow to his issues to become my issues. And what happened after a while is he knew. I know he knew. Because when other people were running, oh my God, he's in a bad mood, it's a toxic environment. I'm walking around, morning. And he's like, and then he would turn and go, hey, morning. and then he would go back to them and have the moment. And I would sit there and go, aha, this is situational. You guys are feeding into it as much as anything else because you've decided that he's in a bad mood. So you're going to join him there or react off of that when it may not even be the truth. He may have had a bad moment. He may have had a bad coffee, a bad scone, a fight with a boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife. Who knows? Mother, father, sister, cousin, friend, it doesn't matter. Could be having an ongoing personal drama in his life that you have no understanding of. So I bump on this new wave of, I think this goes into this whole cancel culture vibe, this whole energy of, because I recognize if you judge somebody on the worst thing they've ever done, then you should be prepared to be judged on the worst thing you've ever done. Because the reality of it is we all have slip-ups, falls, trips, mistakes, because we're all human. Do you give people a chance to recover from those things? Do you give them the grace to recover? Most people, I think, do. Let me ask these guys. When someone falls down in your life, trips up, makes a mistake, I'm going to ask my two producers. Is it your experience that you tend to, or the people around you tend to, give them grace of that moment, or is it more of a double down? And now you're bad because of that moment. You are that moment. I slapped somebody in the face on national television, as an example, the Will Smith thing, right? Is that who he is from now on? So LeBone's shaking her head no. And in your experiences, have you guys ever had those moments where you've made mistakes and felt that you've been held to the judgment of those mistakes forever? By anybody? No. So that's a no from you. Sam says no. You say yes. You have. Can you share? Because I'm curious.
Okay. There are some things that I've done.
Can we hear her? Okay.
There are some things that I've done, of course. I mean, as a teenager, of course, as a child. But it's like because I was around people that actually didn't like me, and I was bullied as well.
Right.
So every mistake I made was like an opportunity for people to attack me. You know, I'll give you an example. I wasn't really the best in school.
Okay.
I didn't like school at all. I just went because everybody.
Because you had to go to school.
Everybody has to go to school, and one subject that I would say I hated the most was mathematics. Because in primary school the teachers were rude about it because I'm a slow learner myself. Right. Even now, I'm still slow, but when I grasp something,
you got it. When you get it, you get it.
But
it takes you a little bit to get it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So I used to be bullied by both teachers and students for being slow. So whenever I would make a mistake, it would be like a big deal. But when the next person makes a mistake, it's like, no, don't worry, it'll be fine. So I grew up in an environment like that.
But you know what's so funny? Even what you just said, and I hope we heard that. We heard everything she said, right? Even the way that we talk about our scenarios, and I'm not redefining it for you. I'm just looking at the verbiage that you used. If we had substituted bullying for toxicity, because when you said that, I was expecting to hear stories. It's funny how we define certain things as certain things. So what I heard Labone just say was, I was bullied as a kid. The definition in my mind of bullying is other students picking on you for something in particular consistently over an extended period of time. That is my definition. So as she was talking, I was waiting to hear that. Then she talks about the teachers basically recognizing or not recognizing that she just learned differently and shaming her because you didn't know the answer, because you didn't know something, while somebody else who also didn't know the answer, but because they're not you and because of how they learn, it's not an everyday thing for them. So they're almost trying to shame you into, but your perception of the shame was bullying, which I think is interesting because they were trying to shame you. They were trying to make you feel bad about you and not knowing. And you perceive that to mean they're bullying me, which is interesting. I think, and I'm not making her wrong for anything she said. My whole point is that's a perfect example of what happens because words are powerful. What we say defines, creates, builds our environment, creates our internal structure. So if we're consistently saying things like, the person I'm dealing with is toxic, there's nothing the person can do. Because in your head, whatever the definition you have for that word, because that word has been given license to mean so much more, you can now label anybody whatever. And I think that we have to, I really want to offer to everybody, we got to give each other more grace. And I know it's not easy. I know it's not easy. It is not easy in the midst of an emotional space, in the midst of your frustration, in the midst of your pain, in the midst of your struggle, to look at the other human being across from you and think, they might have feelings, and that you should consider those feelings, even in so much as just that they have them. You don't have to sit there and try to figure out how to say something so as not to hurt someone's feelings. Because I always go, even though I say intention doesn't matter, I can intend not to hurt someone's feelings, but they can still be hurt because I might not even recognize what Labone just said. I may not have known any of that. I don't know any of her backstory. So if I didn't know any of that, and we're in the midst of something and I offer her criticism, direction, whatever, in a flashbacky way, meaning whatever I said touches on that, she's being bullied. And I'm the bully. Do I know that I'm bullying her? Of course not, because that's not my intention. I'm offering her information, but the way that I may be offering it may be triggering all of this stuff that you don't know about. Somebody said to me once, and I love this, I try to live by it. It's difficult, but it's a difficult thing to live by, but I try to live by it. If you could read if everyone's story was a book, if everyone's life was a book that you yourself could read, that you could go back through and read and understand, you would treat everyone differently. You would have way more patience. We all would have way more patience with each other. We'd be way kinder to each other because we'd understand what came before. But the reality of it is, when you meet someone, you're meeting them in the now. You're meeting them where they are. And unless they're sharing with you all that has come before, and even in the sharing, unless you are willing to listen and take in all of the sharing of all that came before, none of it matters. Because all you're doing is dealing with them from where you come from. So if you're coming from a place of you're sensitive to yelling, just as an example, you're sensitive to someone raising their voice because maybe you grew up in a household where that was the norm. That was the dysfunction, fighting and screaming and blah, blah, blah. So you're sensitive to that. And I've had this happen. I remember having an argument with a woman once, and I didn't raise my voice. And then she was like, stop yelling at me. And I said, huh? And I was like, I'm not yelling at you. I said, I've not yelled at you, not one time. But what I didn't understand was, and I had to learn that after the fact, was that it wasn't that my voice raised an octave. It wasn't like I was, you crazy woman. It wasn't that. It was a tone in the voice. It was a sternness, a brassness, a brusqueness, this energy of frustrationness that was coming through, that was causing her to feel yelled at, even though the definition of yelling in my mind is all of that, because that's what yelling is for me. But yelling for her, the gauge of it is way more sensitive. It was way down low. It was in a space where just, you know what? That right there is yelling. Even though I'm not yelling, but we're having two completely different experiences based on our completely different backstories. I didn't know her backstory at the time. When I learned it, I attempted to adjust more often than not the tone in which, and if I couldn't, I would say it. I said, the tone I'm about to use, you're not gonna like. I would say it. You're not gonna like the tone I'm about to use, because I wanted her to know I am aware consciously that the tone I'm about to use on purpose is going to have an effect on you. And I'm hopeful that you'll hear that enough that you will recognize that the tone is the tone, but it has nothing to do with what you experienced in your past. This is my tone I'm using right now in my frustration, but that has nothing. Don't make that, again, that whole energy of someone stepped in your white shoes over and over. And the other problem with that analogy is when other people have stepped on your white shoes over time and you never told that person and that person and that person and that person. And then all of a sudden a 16th person steps on your white shoes for the first time. And then you attack them. And your response is disproportionate to the moment, meaning you're exploding, you're on 20 for a one moment. And they're all looking at you like, what the hell's happening right now? Not realizing that it's not about you. It's about everything that happened before. I'm saying all that because this whole issue of just throwing these, I think we've become a society, and you guys tell me if you disagree. I feel like we've become a society, probably because of the internet, where we're sitting at home and we're judging people all the time because people offer themselves up to be judged. I said to anybody, if you put your picture up on Facebook, if you put anything up on any of the social media websites, you're asking the universe to look at you, to say something. Agree, disagree? You disagree. Please explain.
Okay, I disagree to an extent because, yeah, of course, when you're a public figure, you're putting yourself out there, especially if you're like a celebrity.
Well, yeah, that's a given. That's your job.
You're putting yourself out there to be ridiculed.
Right.
But some people on social media, I'd say they are mature enough to know that even though they put those pictures, the numbers, the likes, don't define them, because everyone has a different perspective.
Okay.
Like, I remember my cousin, I think he's 30 years old right now. But I remember him telling me that he stopped caring about what people think. If he feels like a certain picture is nice, he's gonna post it. And even if he has 5 likes, at least those 5 likes are from his friends.
No, I don't disagree with what you're saying. Yeah. I'm not in opposition to the idea that you can put out what you want and you get to feel how you feel about it. That's not what I'm asking. Okay. What I'm asking is, when you put something up on social media, you are, by the definition of putting it out there, leaving it up there for anyone to judge. And I think that we've come into a space now where, because people are armchair quarterbacking, meaning they're at home looking at the thing happen, not living any experience, not meeting you anywhere, not knowing you in any real place, they get to slap these labels at you just randomly. And I think we've become so accustomed to doing it that now when we meet people in person, it's so quick to start. You know how many times I've heard in the last few years, and it always upsets me. I'll be in conversation and some dude will say something that offends, bothers, troubles the woman he's talking to, or a woman in the room. And then immediately, guess what phrase pops up? Take a wild guess. Toxic masculinity. This toxic masculinity. And I sit there and go, because he offered an opinion, he didn't attack you, he didn't yell at you, he offered his opinion. And because you don't agree with it, I feel like we've gotten to a point where opinions are no longer, you're not able to have an opinion. Like I was talking with this woman the other day and a friend of mine, and we're talking about Kevin Samuels. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but he had this podcast where he talked about his views on masculinity and femininity and how men should treat women and how women should treat men, all that. And I said to her, there were some things that he said that I sort of agree with. I said, not everything, because a lot of what he said is divisive. A lot of what he said is difficult. But immediately on that, she needed to defend her position. And it became this battle where she was, and I had to catch myself. Because at first I thought we were having a conversation. And then I realized we're not having a conversation. We're having a borderline argument. And a borderline argument is you have an opinion of your rightness. And all of a sudden, the other person who didn't think about whether they were right or wrong was just offering up, this is what I think, this is what I believe, this is a thought in my head, realizes that now, we're debating your rightness. So in effect, we're debating my wrongness. Does that make sense? Okay, hopefully it makes sense to you guys. It's this idea that now all of a sudden, I cannot offer you my thought and you cannot offer me my thought and that be the end of it. That we have to get into this deeper thing. And if we do, and there's discord or discourse, all of a sudden, I'm either not listening, and I always go, my not listening has nothing to do with my agreement. You're saying that because I didn't agree with you, I wasn't listening to you. Two different things. I listened to you and I could still disagree with you. I heard everything you said. I just disagree with everything you said. And that's okay. And I remember towards the middle end of this conversation with this young woman the other day, I had to say to her, we can agree to disagree. Because I wanted to move on because I saw where this was going. And after I said that, I knew she wasn't listening because she went right back to it. Went right back into the same conversation. Because she was determined that I understand how toxic, her words, this guy was. He passed away. And I was sitting there going, I disagree. I already told you I disagree. I'm not telling you that you're wrong on everything you're saying. I'm not telling you that there were some things that he said that weren't questionable that made my eyebrows go up and go, And I'm also telling you, I didn't watch all of his stuff. I watched a couple clips here and there. I've never watched an entire episode. So I'm speaking about just those things, moments that I saw that were interesting to me and the things that were being said. But what she was fighting against was the toxicity of it and me being in belief of the toxicity of it. And I asked her, I said, tell me what it is you heard me say just now. And she couldn't. she said, well, what she said was, you said that you said you like some of the stuff. The question that should have asked and the conversation that it should have had at that moment was, what stuff is he saying that you're sort of liking? So that we can talk about that. Because then because she was saying, well, there are some things. Well, then if we're both saying there are some things, why are we having this debate? And the debate is because we've gotten into this space societally where we want to sit here and launch hurt grenades of toxic masculinity or toxic, or you're a narcissist, or you're this, or you're that. These phrases that most people throw at each other to cause harm, not to educate, not to inform, not to bring them up to a place where you go, are you aware that what you're saying sounds a lot like, like you don't like women? Are you aware that the way you're coming across right now is like you only think about yourself? That's what it appears to be. As opposed to going, you're a narcissist. What is the other person supposed to do? Somebody calls you a narcissist, Samuel. What do you do?
Okay.
When somebody calls you a narcissist, what do you do? Labone?
Nothing.
There's nothing you say. There's no debate that occurs. You just let it go.
I mean, I know I'm not a narcissist, so why should I care about what the other person thinks?
And that's what it is. But then you're not. Then it begs the question: were they trying to have a conversation with you, or are they trying to hurt your feelings? And the reality of it is, more often than not, they're just trying to hurt your feelings. So I think we all have to be so much better. We got to give each other more grace. We got to consider that this is a person, a human person that you're speaking to with a human journey. And unless you're prepared to ask them questions about their journey because I'm always asking people questions about their journey. These guys will tell you, always. I'm very curious about what people think, why they think what they think, where it comes from, but oftentimes I'll ask one question. I remember one time asking one question and it turned into this big argument. And I'm sitting there going, but it wasn't even an argument. It was really a one-sided diatribe. They're just talking. Because I was sitting there going, I just asked you a question. I asked one question. I couldn't even tell you what it is right now. But I asked like something like, I think it was like, well, why do you feel so strongly about that? And then it was, why can't I feel strong? And I was like, I didn't question why you can't feel anything. I was trying to get understanding about why this particular moment seems so heavy for you. But what I realized as the person went on for like 10 minutes, they didn't know. They droned on and on about me and how dare I and how could you and da-da-da. And I'm sitting there going, I just asked you a question. I didn't point at you and say you're a terrible person. I didn't say you're horrific. How dare you? Who do you think you are? None of that. I simply asked you, why is this so causing you so much strong feelings? But they couldn't articulate that truth. So they were stuck in this space of the pain, the hurt, whatever. And I said this before, and somebody said it to me, and I love it, and I'm going to use it. I haven't had a chance to use it yet. But the next time somebody says something that you know they've pulled the grenade, threw the bomb, and they're trying to hurt you, you stop and you ask them, are you okay? Because what they said is that it forces the other person to think about why they're doing what they're doing. You're putting them back into their own body. And you're looking at them going, are you okay? And then when they answer it, and they may or they may not, depending on where they are emotionally. And if they answer it in a space where they can go, yeah, I'm not okay, or I'm mad or whatever, then you can be like, well, yeah, that seems clear because I feel like you're attacking me right now and I'm not sure why. Or you do know why, because sometimes you do know why. You're attacking me right now and I'm trying to understand what the reason for the attack is or whatever it is. Because the whole point of that is to defuse, de-escalate, and bring it all the way back to the world. Bring it back to a feeling place, where a human place, not even a feeling place, to a human place where we can actually have a conversation. Because it's tough. This human experience, if this human experience was easy, everybody'd be good at it. Everybody'd be good at it. We'd all be able to walk around and say hi and not have the other person go, what do you mean hi? Has anybody experienced that? You walk to somebody's like, hey, what do you mean hey? And you're just looking at them like, I have no idea what just happened. Because in your head, your perception of you is, I walked over, hey. In their head, it's a completely different perception. And you can't fight someone else's perception. It's a waste of energy. If somebody tells me that they see me this way, I look at them and go, okay, all I want to know is understand how they got there. And once they tell me, I'm like, okay. But if they come to it from an erroneous place, meaning a factual erroneous place, not an emotional erroneous place, because I'm not going to fight you on how you feel. But if you come and you go, well, I saw you walking down the street and I saw you slap the hell out this woman. Where was this? And when did this happen? And they tell me it was on Tuesday. It was last Tuesday. And I'm like, well, oh, we were rehearsing. I was rehearsing a scene with someone. So I wasn't actually beating her up. We were rehearsing a scene. So I'm not a wife beater. So if that's what you're walking around thinking. And now you're treating me differently as a result. And now we're having this moment as a result. Most things can be addressed if you take the time to ask the right question. Instead of lobbing hurt grenades of toxic and toxic masculinity or any other narcissist or any of these other buzzwords that have become so easy. You know how easy it is to just throw out something at somebody rather than, and much harder to go up to them and ask a question and actually ask. Not ask in that sarcastic way where you don't really want to know the answer. You ask and then you shut up and let them answer. Because there have been many moments for me where people have asked in that sarcastic way a question, and then I go, are you actually asking me a question? And if they say yes, then I'll answer it. And I try to answer it with the energy going the other direction, which is hard. Oh, it's hard because you got to think yourself out of not being an asshole back to them. Because how easy it is. Somebody's being an ass to you, you want to meet them. Your energy is like, oh, you want to be an ass? I'm going to be an ass too. You want to yell? I'm going to yell too. You want to be a fool? I want to be a fool too. That's the most of us reaction. It is so much work. And I tell you this honestly, to when somebody's being disrespectful to you, to come down and simply say to them, are you aware that currently your tone feels super disrespectful to me? That what you're saying, how you're saying it. I had to say that to somebody yesterday. And she looked at me like, well, you can feel how you feel. And I looked at her, I was like, well, thank you. Because I'm sitting here, thank you. And I remember in my mind, I said, oh, that was a little bit of something on that, thank you. Because I was annoyed that she was giving me permission to feel. And said, I didn't ask for your permission. I'm telling you that your tone, and especially the words that your verbiage that you're using is super disrespectful. And I think you're doing it on purpose because you didn't say it once, you said it twice. So let me stop you before you say it a third time. Because for me, that's you stepped on my white shoes once. I watched you do it, but I wasn't sure if you meant to do it. Then you did it again. And I go, well, nah, I know you meant to do it. So I'm going to stop you right now before you do it again, because you're going to do it again. Because you just hurt grenade. And you're trying to elicit a hurt reaction. And a hurt reaction is an emotional reaction where the other person now is in their feelings and is now defending an emotional place. And I didn't want to defend my emotional place. So I spoke to her about the situation. I said, this is what you said. This is how you said it. I'm going to ask you not to say that again because it's super disrespectful. And she defended her position. And I said it again. After she defended her position, I said, again, this is what you said. This is how you said it. I'm going to ask you not to say it again. And I said, and then I moved on to the next part of the conversation. And then the next time she did say it, she changed. And I caught that. I recognized that there was a change because I didn't let her get away with it. Accountability. Most of us are terrible at it. Either getting people to be accountable or getting ourselves to be accountable or taking in the accountability for, the things that we've done or not done. It's tough because it means you got to stop, look at yourself and go, I screwed up. And I got to own it. So as we walk around this world, this space with all these other humans having this human experience, I plead, I beg, I beseech you all to let's be kinder, let's be gentler, let's be self-aware of the fact that you're not talking to somebody on a screen. You're talking to a real person about real things. And in those moments, you get to feel how you feel. They get to feel how they feel. All of that is true. And there are some moments where sometimes you have to let people know, I'm not joining you in how you feel. You want to be upset. Great. But you're mad. You're getting more mad because I'm not upset. Oh, so then you're going to throw the toxic terms, the negative terms, the narcissistic terms, because I decided not to join you in your upset. Why should I join you in your upset? It has nothing to do with me. You're making a choice to be upset, and I'm making a different choice to not be upset. So we have to be, and I hate to use the term have to. I always tell people every time I say have to, I always correct myself and say I don't like saying what we have to do. So I'll change it to say we want to be more mindful of how we speak to each other in terms of those labels that we so arbitrarily use without truly understanding what they mean. So when you're thinking about the hurt grenades that you're launching at other people because there was a moment of frustration or pain that you felt, did you do the self-assessment to ask yourself, what was my part in it? Did I walk up to somebody and then they started screaming at me? Then your part in it was I walked up. Doesn't make you wrong. And you have a right to be able to say to whomever you need to say it to, all I did was walk up and then I was yelled at. But if you know that there was a reason behind it, or if you don't know, but you believe there was a reason behind it, you still can go find out. You can get clarity. Because I think oftentimes we just start moving from the emotion. We feel what we feel. We want what we want. We do what we do. So the moment someone steps on your foot, you feel the pain, you feel the frustration, and you want to lash out. And if you don't, as I've said many times before, you carry it over to the next person or to that person in the future. And you have a bigger emotional break and a bigger emotional moment about something. I feel like we have reached a point in the way that, because I grew up in a different generation. The internet was just coming up as we were getting into it. This new generation, the internet is the way they communicate. It's the way that all of you speak to each other. It's the social media. When I say internet, I'm referring to the social media. Social media is the way that people meet. Very rarely, I've found that most people I've talked to, and I'm like, how'd y'all meet? This app, that app. It's been a long time since I heard somebody say, yeah, I was in the grocery store, or I was in church, or I was at the library, which is not a thing anymore for most places. I was walking down the street, and then you met, you talked, we were at a party. You find that most people are telling me they met through some kind of a dating app. And there's nothing wrong with it. I have no shade on that. I have no judgment on it. You can meet however you want to. But I think that in general, because we're not interacting on a daily basis, maybe the way we used to because of social media, or because it gives us the freedom to sit at home and talk about other people. Like the other day I was at a party and everybody started talking about Jada Pinkett, talking about her like a DOG. And I was like, guys, do you know her? I don't know her. I'm not defending her, but I don't know her. But the way y'all talking about this woman is like she is the devil. And all you're seeing is snapshots of a life. You're seeing some of her worst moments played out in public. Her worst moments. Granted, she put it out there in some cases, and other cases, other people put it out there. But these are snapshots. And then everybody wants to make somebody the good guy and somebody the bad guy. So in scenarios like that, we want to make her the good guy. She's the good one. She's the bad guy, rather. And Will Smith's the good guy. He's the victim. Huh? She's just making money? In what way? You say she's just making, LeBone's like she's just making money. In what way you mean she's just making money?
I mean, yeah, of course.
Because of her show? Is that what you mean?
No. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong,
sure,
but I think in Hollywood, bad publicity is still good publicity.
Yeah, well, no, that's true. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Exactly. So
except for bad, but nowadays, let me take that back. There used to be, and then I'll let you finish. It used to be that there's no such thing as bad publicity because just getting yourself out there was important. So people know you exist. But nowadays, the reality is there's bad publicity. Because we used to not know everything about our celebrities. We used to know just the image of them. We would only see them at the award shows. We would see them at the concerts. We'd see them at the talk shows. We would get snapshots into their lives through that. We didn't know what was happening in there we didn't know what they ate for breakfast and how they're doing mindful meditation. We didn't know all of that. But now with the advent of social media, we're so inside of people's lives, but still only in so much as they're allowing us in. And we're making judgments on those things that we're seeing. But finish what you're saying and I'll finish. You were talking about her making money.
I'm just saying she's out there milking money because I feel like whatever is happening right now, what she has been talking about is just the way to get, I feel like it's just the way to get more attention, I'd say she's just making money, honestly. I mean, I'm not into this whole celebrity drama thing myself. I don't do that.
Right.
In that situation, I'm not even gonna bother investing my emotions because celebrities, they'll always have these ridiculous stories, and at the end of the day, it works for them. So if it works for her,
but even what you're saying, you said you're not investing you're investing something because you know something, you've seen something, you've heard something has been invested.
Because it's in my face.
Because it's in your face.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. It's the whole idea that it's all out there, that it makes it feel like we have the right to judge somebody.
Yeah.
We're almost being invited in to judge them and say, look at this toxic relationship. Look at these toxic people. Look at this toxic masculinity moment or situation. But it's all snapshots. This is not who. I don't know her. I want to keep saying that. I don't know her. I met her once. She seemed like a very nice woman. But it was a one-time meeting. We had a very simple conversation. Her son was sick. I said, your son, is he okay? She was like, no, he has a cold. I said, I'm sorry. I said, I hope he feels better. And that was it. This was when I think Jaden was like 4. This is how long ago that was. I'm talking about a moment. But in that moment, I told her, keep doing what you're doing, love you, and then left. That was it. It was a moment. That moment doesn't define who she is. From that moment, I can't go, she's this person. But mind you, like a perfect example, I'll share this. One of my buddies, he works at Paramount. And he was at Paramount Studios. And he was walking around, I think on lunch or going to lunch. And he saw this older woman who looked like something was off. She looked dizzy, confused. So he walked over and he said, ma'am, are you okay? And she said, I just feel a little lightheaded. And he said, well, let's sit down. And he had water. He offered her the water. And they sat down on the stairs in front of the building she was standing in front of. And she was drinking the water. And she was like, you don't have to be here. He was telling me the story. You don't have to stay. He was like, no, we'll make sure you're okay. We'll stay here. Is there somebody we can call? She said, no, my nephew's inside. They're screening a movie that he's in. And she was like, oh, okay, you want me to go get him? She's like, no, I'll be fine. I think you were right, probably dehydrated. I should drink. So she's drinking the water. And then all of a sudden, the door opens and a guy comes out. And my friend looks up and it's Leonardo DiCaprio. And this is his aunt. So Leonardo DiCaprio comes out and he's like, oh, I was looking at where you were and da-da-da. And he was like, yeah, she was feeling dizzy. I gave her some water. And it was a whole moment. In that moment, what Leonardo saw, and I'm only saying that based off of what he does next, what he saw, snapshot moment of somebody, was somebody who saw another person, another human being in trouble and stopped what they were doing to make sure that this person was okay. That told him something about my friend. And in that moment, he gave my buddy his number. He was like, I don't know you, you don't know me. He said, but you sat out here with her, and because his aunt told her, he sat with me, got me water, and he didn't know who she was. He didn't know this was Leonardo DiCaprio's aunt. All he knew was a woman looked like something was wrong and I'm going to try to help her. So that's what he was doing. And he was able to make a connection with somebody that way. That's how we're supposed to do it. You behave, you see something that's an opportunity to do something right when nobody else is around, and you just do it without worrying about whether or not, let's get it on social media and make sure everybody knows I just did this, and let everyone know so they can judge it and go, oh, you're such a great person. You're such a great guy. Because then the same thing is on the other side. I've had moments with people here in Jabrone where people have behaved badly. I'll use that term. And in the behaving badly, the grace I've given them, for me personally, is to simply go, I'm not going to judge them on this one moment. I'm going to give you an opportunity to be somebody different. Even though I'm still a believer in when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. But sometimes you have to make sure that they're showing you who they are and they're not showing you a moment, a bad day moment. So it's a differentiation. It's like you want to give them a little bit of grace. And maybe that's a mistake on my part. And in the moment I sat and waited and then saw, because I've seen both sides. I've seen the people who've had bad moments have worse moments later. And then I go, well, then yes, who I met before is exactly who you are. You have shown me who you are. I now believe you. And then I've also had moments where people have done the other opposite. And I go, oh, okay, there's more to you than that bad moment. Good. Because I would hate to have to judge you by that. Because then if I judge you by that, I got to slap a label on you. Narcissist, toxic, this person, that person, meanie, bully, all of these things that we so very quickly want to throw on people without looking at, one, ourselves and our own history and what might trigger us. Because I recognize that there is, because I was bullied and many of us are, but it depends on the level of the bullying. My level probably wasn't as high as somebody else's, but there's no bully Olympics. So I can't grade myself against other people. It was rough for me. But I recognize that there are still certain things that will trigger me to react aggressively when I feel like someone's trying to overwhelm me, suppress me, tell me who I am. That thing right there. Somebody tells me who I am, I immediately, you're this. And I'm like, you don't even know me. And I've had to work really hard not to let that be it, because it was a trigger for a long time, because I would react immediately aggressively. And I had to catch it and realize that I couldn't do that anymore. It's not helpful, because the other person don't know. They have no clue that they just threw toxic at you, and toxic is like, me? Toxic? You want to fight? Let's go. And then, because we've seen that. We've all seen that. Haven't you guys seen that in your experience? Where all of a sudden you say something to somebody and they're ready to go, and you're looking at them like, what just happened? Like I told somebody a couple months ago in the midst of a conversation, I said, I think you're being short-sighted. And I was going to say more. The next thing I knew, they were on 25. Standing up, screaming, you disrespectful. And I'm like, huh? What? And I'm sitting there looking at myself going, he's short-sighted? The short-sighted? And then I had to catch myself and go, and I told myself a story as this was happening. What is happening right now is happening in his head. The moment he's having right now has nothing to do with you. You said a phrase that you had no clue was going to have this reaction. Saying short-sighted doesn't, and I don't know that that's triggerable, but the reality of everything and anything can trigger someone. So when I realized that he was fully triggered, there's nothing I could say to him, because there was nothing he would hear. So I sat there and let him have his moment. I'm saying we don't know. So picking these terms that aren't definable, that we're throwing them at people, lobbing this hurtful stuff at folks. God, we're not helping each other. There it is. It's just lobbing stuff. And the other question that they said you should ask, besides asking somebody are they okay, is, are you wanting to hurt my feelings? Was that what this was? And then if you say that, again, you're forcing them to have to tell you. Because now it's not a subconscious, they weren't paying attention, or accidental, oops, or whatever. Now you're asking them to stop and think and be present in this now moment and tell me, are you wanting to hurt my feelings? And if you're wanting to hurt my feelings, at least now we know where we are. We know what conversation we're having. But the reality is, very few adults, if you ask them, are you trying to hurt my feelings? Are going to be like, yes. Yes, I'm trying to hurt your feelings. Very few. Because the reality is most of us aren't trying to hurt each other's feelings. We're just not thinking about it. We're not thinking that what we're saying could be something that could hurt someone's feelings. We're not being considerate of the potential of someone else's pain-riddled journey, the story of their life, the happy, the joy. And remember, it goes the other way too. You could easily say something to somebody that you don't realize, because you can get triggered the other side. You can get triggered in a way where you're like, Sam's a good guy. Because he says something to you that maybe a teacher said to you when that you really respected, or your mother said to you, your father said to you, and he says the same thing. And all of a sudden you're like, because that's good feelings around the phrasing. And you're looking at Sam like, Sam's a good guy, because he's a good egg. But the same thing's true when he turns around and says, you're being toxic. And now you're in this fight, you're in this battle, you're in this energy. We got to do better. We got to become much more self-aware. And we know the work we do here is almost always around us having these conversations so that we're looking at ourselves. And I promise you, I'm having this conversation looking at myself. Is it easy? Nope. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And if it was easy, we'd all be able to speak to each other well. There'd be no wars, because conversations would answer everything. We would have a clear understanding of what someone's feeling, thinking, where their perspective, and then be able to share our perspective and not have it be a reaction, problematic reaction. Can you guys open this up so I can get the questions? I promise you one day I will learn this passcode. just not today. Thank you. All right. Oh, yeah, you got to put, you just did the finger thing, right? She just did the thing where she just touched it with her finger and it just opened. I'm going to need you to put my finger on here so I don't have to do this. Have this computer recognize me as a person. So let's be able to do that. So let's get into it. As always, we want to talk about get these questions that you guys might have around this topic to see what, if anything, I missed or to button up anything that's already been said. So let's get to the first one. What is the main characteristic of a narcissist that you have noticed? That's interesting that you want to talk about narcissists. So I think we talked about this during our therapy conversation. And we said that the main thing about narcissists is consistently concerned with their own self-interest, what feels good to them, what's important for them, and them only, without even considering, seeing, being open to the potential that there might be another position that could be taken, that there might be another point of view that could be had, that there might be another perspective. I think that is what a narcissist is. But I also say that anybody that calls someone a narcissist should first look at themselves. Because if you have the cojones, if you have the huevos, the balls to stand up and tell somebody else that all they do is think about themselves,